And, of course, mandatory minicamp for the Bills tomorrow.
Did you buy a Yankees hat yet?
I'm not buying a Yankees hat. I will point out, Sal, you'll appreciate this. My wife has a Yankees hat. She bought our daughter a Yankees hat. My son, of course, plays for the Yankees. And I am the holdout. I don't have a Yankees hat.
Sal, I've sent him some Yankees hats that actually are pretty. Like, you wouldn't even know it's a Yankees hat. And it's nice.
Yeah, listen, I know I totally understand it because I remember one year we were like, boy, I hope we don't get on the Red Sox. They have to wear Red Sox gear, right? Like,
yeah.
You get, and every year the way it works at Shoshone, where your kids are playing and my son, it's every age group that you go up. It's American League for one, National League for the next. We are currently in National League, so this year Max is on the Braves.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay.
Last year it was the Athletics, and it said Oakland on the jerseys. Well, in real life, they're no longer. So they actually literally, I said, what are they going to do with that team? And they kept it. They just wrote Athletics on the jerseys.
Yeah. Well, Sal, like to the point about what you're going to wear, Joe sent me a link to a Yankees hat that had whatever ocean waves on the brim.
It was like a Fiji Yankees hat.
And
yeah,
I finally
different
thought,
style.
you know what? I'll tell you the Yankee hat I would wear. It would have a Yankee logo on it, and then around the rest of the crown, it would say in big block letters, "In T-ball only." Because really, that's what it's about. I don't want anyone confusing me with a Yankee fan. That would be weird. It would be, wait a minute, I didn't know you were a Yankee fan. You're just walking down the street, and somebody tries to tell me something about what Judge did or who's starting for the Yankees.
That's the best part.
I don't want to have this conversation with you. I don't like the Yankees. Anyway, go Yankees.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's so funny, right?
Yeah.
Would you wear a Red Sox cap if Max was on the Sox?
You would not.
I mean, if I was I don't know. To be honest, I'm not a big
Oh, there we go.
Right? I didn't wear an Oakland jersey or cap last year, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I wore I think I would wear a regular cap if I did. So a lot of times I just don't wear a cap.
Yeah. Right. I like it. All right, Sal. So mandatory minicamp for the Bills starts tomorrow. We're at the point where the James Cook, whatever. It's not quite a saga yet. It's been a slow burn here this offseason. And now the latest from Adam Schefter is he does expect him to not be there for mandatory minicamp and says he might not be in Buffalo for quite some time. Looking at this one day out of where this would escalate to another stage, how are you feeling about James Cook's season this year? Not just where things stand right now, but where things could go. Like, how many different roads do you think this could take?
Well, I think it would take a lot of different roads. But I think the one thing that you still come back to is, and I think about a lot of what Brandon Beane has talked about, saying that, James Cook, he's confident he'll be playing in a Buffalo Bills summit in 2025. And James Cook is under contract to the Buffalo Bills in 2025. I mean, that's the bottom line. He has a contract, and, he can choose to play a different way, and there's a lot of financial penalties that way. It rarely gets to that point in the NFL, and that's why I feel like it won't get to that point at some point. Right now, obviously the storyline is if he's there or if he's not. It's trending towards him not being there. And I think there's two parts of this, right? There's the Bills part and there's James Cook's part. And there's a lot of talk about, well, what's he going to sacrifice? How much is he going to get fined? I don't know if James Cook and his representatives care about that right now, to be honest with you. Sure, I mean, at some level they care, right? But it's not a ton of money, and do the ends justify the means? Let's take it from the player's standpoint. Okay, if they get fined and, eventually, hey, we're still going to make up this money for some contract we signed, whether that's by the Bills or somebody else or however this works out. So I don't know if that matters as much. And then you have the Bills side, which is, hey, this is mandatory. We want everybody here. And, of course, they do. They're not going to be happy that James Cook isn't at mandatory minicamp. But his teammates will also know, hey, he's been here 3 years. He knows the system. They'll say all the things that are supportive of him. So I think that, right now you'll get that newsy stuff. But honestly, there's just kind of two sides to look at it. And it really doesn't come to a head until he gets training camp.
Sal, what do we know about the agent here? I'm Spotrac listed as Matthew Leiston. I'm seeing he's only negotiated one contract before. I just wonder if there's anything to that. Sometimes a player will fire their agent and get somebody bigger, like Drew Rosenhaus. I feel like he just closed somebody's deal after it wasn't working out for a while. And I don't know about Cook or much about his agent, but could that be part of what's at work here? Is you have an agent that I don't want to say like the agent is leading the player the wrong direction, but they work in concert, and sometimes the agent might have an approach and the player is interested in that, or the agent wouldn't push back on something a player might be saying. I wonder if you have any thought on that. on who the agent might be, and if inexperience or a veteran agent might make things different?
So a lot of times they have agencies, and they're repped by different people in the agency at different various points of their negotiations for their marketing, their on-field product, whatever. So could be that specific guy, but it could be other people also for the agency. I will say this, though. It's a good point you bring up, because when I was at the Combine, and this was starting to percolate a little bit when we were talking, I had asked a couple of people around in the NFL who've kind of dealt with agents before in these situations, and that was the one thing that was said to me a couple of times, which is James Cook has an agent that he has a reputation like this, and I think Dalvin was his client as well, and I don't know, and again, it could be that specific person you're referencing, but Dalvin's client, there was another person, I can't remember the player, it was said to me that they went through a similar type of deal, and I mean, look, at the end of the day, James Cook is his own man, and he's an adult, and he can make decisions and say, no, I'm showing up. But I walked away from these conversations thinking a lot of this could very well be agent-driven and saying, here, this is what you do. This is the playbook, right? This is how we're going to handle this. And that's kind of what I got. And then on top of that, you get Dalvin, who, he's not shy about tweeting out numbers on social media and how he's acted. And it seems to me, this is my opinion now, it seems to me that James Cook has several people who are influencing him, giving him the playbook, telling him how to go about this. I'm not saying that he agrees or disagrees. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like this is just James Cook holding some firm line on his own and being, kind of away from everybody and what they think.
Yeah, I wonder also how updated, Jeremy, this Spot Track profile is of the agent, because do you know who you said he has one contract negotiated. You know who it is?
The NFLPA's website says he has one contract.
So does Spot Track, but you know who the one player is?
No.
Caden Prather. The Bills' 7th-round rookie who just signed his rookie contract, a month ago? So I don't know, though, how experienced or unexperienced he is. Sal, I wonder how active this negotiation even is. How much – this is kind of guessing game, but I wonder how much of Cook, if he skips minicamp and if whatever his next, path takes. You mentioned Brandon Beane's comments. Does it feel like to you that this is a back and forth, or that it's maybe more of a dormant negotiation at this point in time?
It feels to me like it's more the latter, Joe. Not that they haven't talked necessarily. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But I don't think there's offers going back and forth. Brandon Beane basically said to us at the owners' meetings, once they realized that they had this group of 5, right, including Josh, so a group of 4 guys. I guess it would be group of 5. Who signed the extensions? Rousseau, Shakir, Bernard, and
Benford.
Thank you. So 5 with Josh. So 5 total new guys, guys on the expiring deals with James Cook. And what Brandon Beane essentially said, if you go back to the owners' meetings, was, they made contact with all these guys. And once it became clear that they weren't going to get anything done with James Cook, they pivoted to the other guys. And then he basically said, I think he used the word next year, we can get something done next year. It seems to me like the Bills, from their side, from the messaging that we heard back then, was, we're kind of done with this. We're not really revisiting this. Now, that doesn't mean that James Cook can't come back and his agent go, okay, listen, this is gone. We've made our point, but we can come down. And then you never know how those conversations go. But I don't get the sense that this is actively back and forth, anything like that, as far as numbers are concerned.
Mandatory minicamp opens tomorrow. So the potential next steps could involve a hold-in, a trade request. I mean, this time of year is tough to get a trade. I mean, we've seen some players use that. Jonathan Taylor is one. And Sal, I've seen a little bit about he might have to report to camp anyway because of the way that the CBA works, and that's why hold-ins have become more of a thing. It's not necessarily to get rid of a fine, but just because there's some language in the CBA that in order for your contract to toll, you have to be at camp. So he could be there, and then it gets awkward if he's there and holding in. So, I mean, lots of different ways this whole thing could go.
Yeah, and we thought, even mandatory minicamp, maybe he's here and he's holding in, right? I mean, that you get to camp, you could hold in. And it does become awkward, and it does become weird. It becomes a story. And let's remember, Hard Knocks cameras are going to be a training camp, right? That becomes even more of a story. So, yeah, there's a lot of different ways that this could go. I mean, I think that he won't be here this week based on what we're hearing now. But if he is, I'd be even more surprised. And okay, if he's there, then the next step is, does he actually participate in anything? And I don't know. At this point, it just doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like it's more of a statement right now. But how far does that statement continue to go once you get to training camp? But you're right, Jeremy. There's a lot of ways that this could play out. That some have much more higher financial significance than others do.
Feels like one quick thing here. I want you to, if you could remember what McDermott said about him. A lot of this is, fans saying, "Oh, whatever, Cook. They'll be fine without him." But the complimentary side of his game is the way McDermott talked about him after the season, being a dog, being laser focused, and Sal, like we could talk about how the GM does the contracts, but the team's having internal discussions, and McDermott, the arc he would have taken himself on Cook and Cook proving himself. This contract aside, Cook to me strikes me as another one of these guys that player development. Early on, they might not have liked his practice habits or trusted him in that way. And he went from that when they drafted him to the coach really just raving about him at the end of the season this last year.
Yeah, I agree. What's interesting about a lot of the discussion or, how people are perceiving a lot that's happening here is there's a difference between the Bills don't want to sign James Cook or they don't want to sign him for what he wants, right? I think the Bills want to sign James Cook. I do. I think they want to have him in Buffalo beyond 2025. I think it comes down to the value they want to sign him for. And a lot of the reason why they want to sign him, Jeremy, is what you just said, which is this is a player they drafted, they developed. He's been very good for them. He's very good for their system, their offense. He means a lot to them. How much, but when you compare it to other players, what those players mean to their offenses, 3 players in this league make $15 million or more at that position: Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, and Saquon Barkley. And the Bills want to sign him. They don't want to sign him for that kind of money. There's a big difference there. But yes, I think that as much as we talk about how much the Bills over the years, and I'll be the first to tell you, I don't think the Bills believe in spending all these premium, assets on running back. It's more like, hey, we draft a guy, second round, that's it. You could say that's a really good asset, but draft a guy, use him, let him go somewhere else. Doesn't mean that that's a hard and true rule if a guy is good enough and demonstrates everything you just said, which is he did everything for us that we wanted. He's been a dog. He was laser focused. But it still comes a point where how much is too much, though, to do that. So I think that people sometimes, I get people who say, well, why don't the Bills want to sign James Cook or the Bills don't want to sign him? I don't think that's true at all. The Bills want to sign James Cook. They just don't agree with the value that he places on himself.
Sal Capaccio with us on the Western Hotline. Sal, we got a call last hour about this. Conor McGovern's going into the last year of his deal, and he's got a $9.8 million cap hit right now. Would you almost guess that is being talked about right now? Do you think they would go into the last year with his number being that high? Because I know we've talked about how they still are pretty up against the cap. So all this Cook talk about contracts and negotiations, how much do you think they're thinking about contract stuff with their interior line, especially McGovern?
I'm sure it's something they've discussed. There's a lot of levers you can always look at. That's maybe, but they've already pulled a bunch, right, by these extensions and pushing money out and how you want to lower some caps and things like that. So that's another lever they can pull, Joe. I think the question would be, hey, if we do that, are we comfortable with Conor McGovern, our long-term starting center for the next few years? Or, hey, we'll let him play this out because we have a guy behind him on a rookie contract, and Cedric Van Pran-Granger, and another guy in Alec Anderson who we really like who can play center. Right? I mean, they have a really nice offensive line with some depth. So, yes, I think that because Conor McGovern's a good player for them, they like having him, and that number is there. I think that is very possible. I also don't think it has to be something there necessarily, oh, my God, we need to do this, because maybe they really like the guys behind him and say, we can let him play out this deal and we can get a little bit cheaper next year.
Sal Capaccio, mandatory minicamp starts tomorrow. One last thing for you, Sal. We had a person in the YouTube chat ask about Trey White and how things have looked for him so far. So what you have seen from Trey White and what maybe teammates and coaches have said about him, how does Tre'Davious Wright look coming back to the Bills? He was not gone for very long. It feels like he was gone for a little bit longer than he was. But what do you think about the Bills' veteran corner in terms of his potential to make a difference for them this year?
Well, first of all, I'll say that you don't see any effects of the injuries, right? Like, it's not like, A, you don't see anything in his natural movements or anything like that. You're like, oh, yeah, he's recovering. B, it's not like he's out there with, a bunch of stuff wrapped up on his feet or his legs or stuff like that. And some guys have wraps anyway. They're not dealing with injuries, but, he's not like that. And then also, guys, the thing I've been most impressed with, he's always on the field. He's playing in a lot of – he's out there like everybody else, right? It's not like doesn't seem to me like they're backing off him in any way. At his age, he wants to be out there. This is going to be a fascinating kind of battle, I think. I do think right now it's a battle for the number 2 cornerback job, and it's Tre'Davious White because of, him being Tre'Davious White and coming back, and he's been this all-pro before, and he might not be now, and we'll see, but it's also Max Hairston because of what you spent on him, first-round pick. He should have this pedigree to be able to start on a team that has basically an opening at that particular position, and I think this is going to be a good battle to watch. Now, maybe someone else sneaks up in there. I think it's between those two, and we'll see where it goes. How has he looked? And look, it's been a little uneven, but it's always going to be, I think, a non-pad situation when you have to cover, Elijah Moore down the field, and there's no real pass rush, and there's no hitting or contact, and, he gets beat. He got beaten a crosser a couple of weeks ago, Elijah Moore, and Trey was very upset at himself. He was down the field, whatever. At the same time, there's times where I see him, he's right in the mix making the play. So, yeah, I think it's very interesting watching him here, but I think we are definitely in for a cornerback number 2 battle when we get to camp, and we'll see where it goes.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. All right, Sal.
All right.
We'll chat tomorrow and through the week, and we'll see where things go with James Cook.
You got it, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
All right, thank you.